Dear students, Plus 2 Computer Science Chapter 9, Structured Query Language Part 2. In the previous class, we discussed about the working on MySQL, that is the steps for opening a MySQL and how to create a database and open a database and the basic data types in HTML. Today we are discussing about the SQL comments and how to create a table and the basic constraints. So next topic is SQL comments. Comments in SQL are classified into three types, that are DDL comments, DML comments and DCL comments. The DDL, DML and DCL are the basic components of structured query language. We discussed in the last class what is meant by the DDL. DDL means data definition language and DML means data manipulation language and DCL means data control language. And the DDL commands are deals with the structure of the database, that is how to create a database and how to alter, drop the databases. That is, it consists of three commands: create, alter and drop. The commands used in DDL commands are create, alter and drop, and it defines the structure of the database. And next is DML commands. DML commands means data manipulation, that is data modification. Manipulation means modification. DML commands associated with the operations like the manipulations in table, that is insertion, deletion and any updation, that are these type of operations in a table are used with the commands, DML commands, that are insert, delete and update commands are included in DML commands. That are DML commands associated with the operations like insertion of records, retrieval of records, modification or updating of records and deletion of the records. And in this chapter we deals with these two commands, that is DDL commands and DML commands. And next topic is how to create a table. That create a table command is by using the and syntax, that is create a table command is used to create a table. The table means a relation. In DBMS or a SQL, a table means a relation, and the syntax for creating a table is create space table name bracket open, then column name 1 space data type space constraint, comma, then column name 2 data type, the data type of the column name 2 and space constraints, etc. up to column name n. And here the table name represent the name of the table to be created and it is a unique name, and column name the name of the column, and so on. And here we use a constraint. Constraint is a condition or check the condition applied to the column or a group of column. Constraint means a condition applied to a column or a group of column. An example: create table space student bracket open roll number int name varchar of 20 total mark int percentage DEC of 5,2. In the last class we discussed about the data types. So int varchar of 20 varchar, then again int DEC of 5,2. All are familiar with the data type. Int data type is used to used for the it is a numeric data type used to enter the integer numbers, and varchar it is entered for the string data type of numbers with the character with the size 20, and the DEC is used for the numerical number. For the fractional numbers we use the DEC of 5,2. 5,2 means total number of digits is 5, and after the fractional point we use the 2 digits only. By this statement we can create a student table with the column names, roll number, name, total mark, percentage. And next is if we create a table name, there are some rules for creating table name. In the previous year we studied about the rules for identifiers. Like the rules of identifiers, here we also use some rules for the creation of a table, so or naming a table. And the rules are: first rule, the name may contain letters, that is from capital letters, that is means uppercase letters, that is a capital A to capital Z, or lowercase letters small a to small z, or digits from 0 to 9, or an underscore, or and a dollar symbol. These all symbols are used to create a name. And a name must contain at least one character. We can't use all the characters as digits, or the special characters, but at least one character is capital A to Z, or a small a to z character must be used. If the digits, if we use the name with only digits, it is invalid. And the name of a table must not contain white spaces or special symbol. Only we can use the symbols underscore and dollar symbol, and does not use a white space or blank space. And keywords, there are some keywords in SQL, that keywords must not be a name for a table. And the next rule, the name should not be the name of an existing table, or the duplicates names are not possible, or the table names are unique. We can't use the existing name for existing table name in the for a new table. And then next topic is constraint. Constraint means a rules enforced on a data, and that entered into a column of a table. A constraint is a condition applied to a group or group of column. That is, constraints are some rules enforced on data that are entered into a column of a table. When we create a table, we can apply constraints on the values, and that can be entered into its fields. And constraints are classified into table constraints and column constraints. There are two types of constraints, that are table constraints and column constraints. If we applied constraint to a column, then it is known as a column constraint, or a group of columns, then it is also known as a column constraint. If we apply constraint for a table, it is known as a table constraint. A table constraint is applied to a table, where as a column constraint is applied to a column. And constraints ensure the database integrity. By applying constraints to a table, the database is integrated. Integrity is ensured by using the constraints, and hence there are also called database integrity constraints. Then next topic is the different type of columns. Different type of column constraints. The first constraint is not null. By using the column constraint not null, that the value of the column can never have an empty value. This constraint ensures that a column can never have a null value, and by using the keyword null, the SQL represent an empty value. And if we enter the null values to a table, if that are added, addition is not possible. That is, two null values cannot be added, subtracted, or compared. We cannot compare the two null values. And the next constraint is auto increment. Auto increment keyword perform an auto increment, that is, it assigns a series of number automatically and insert into a column. If we enter by default the auto increment value is started with 1, then if we apply auto increment to a variable, then it is increased by 1. That is, if the starting value is 1, then by applying the auto increment constraint, the next value is 2, and the next 3, then 4, and so on. If we apply, if the default value is 1, we can apply also the value as any other digit. If the auto increment value is initial value set with 5, then the next value is 6, 7, 8, and so on. Only one auto increment constraint for a column is allowed in a table. We can't apply auto increment to more than one in a table. It is only one auto increment column is allowed in a table. That is auto increment keyword perform an auto increment, that is it assigns a series of number automatically and insert it to a column. The default starting value is 1. The auto increment column must be defined as a primary key of the table. The primary key of the table must be, if we apply auto increment to a table, then that is defined as a primary key. What is mean by primary key? Primary key is a candidate key. It is a to identify a unique row, to identify the row uniquely, and only one auto increment column is allowed in a table. And next is unique. By using the unique constraint, it ensures that no two rows have the same value in a specified column. Unique means it is only once we can apply, that is it constraint ensure that no two rows have the same value in a specified column. Next is primary key. What is mean by primary key? Primary key is one of the candidate key chosen to be the unique identifier for a table by the database designer, and it is maybe a set of one or more attribute. Attribute means column that can uniquely identify the rows with the relation. Here, by using the primary key constraint, it declares a column as the primary key of the table. For example, we can use the admission number. In the last previous chapter, we already discussed about primary key and select a primary key from a student relation. Here we can select the admission number, or in a school there will be admission number is a unique identifier for students. So by declaring primary key as a constraint for a column, the primary it is the primary key of the table, and it is similar to the unique constraint, except that it can be applied only to one column or a combinations of column. It can be applied on one column or combination or column. That is for if we can create a primary we can declare a primary key as admission number or roll number plus class. It is also a primary key. That is a combination, roll number plus batch. It is a combination, and primary key cannot contain null values. All the primary key column names having the values, and it cannot be a empty value. And the next constraint is default. By using default constraint, value can set as a default value. Using this constraint, a default value can be set for a column. In case the user does not provide a value for that column of a record. This constraint is used to specify the default value for a column, and in case the user does not provide a value for that column, for a particular column, we assign the default constraint, then the default value is taken by the table. And the example, create table student bracket opens admission number in primary key auto increment. Here we use the primary key as the admission number as the primary key. Here the primary key is admission number. It is an uniquely identified by the entire table, and also applied the auto increment. Auto increment means if the admission number value is 1. Here we not given a value, so initially its value is 1. If we enter a value as 101, then the next value is 102, 103, and so on. So here admission number in primary key auto increment. Next, name varchar of 20 not null. So name must be entered by the data into the table. Next, gender char default M. The default value of gender column is M for male students, and the DOB with the data type date course varchar of 15 F income int. It is an example for a creation of a student table with the column names, admission number, name, gender, date of birth, course, and family income. And next topic is table constraint. If we use a constraint for the entire table, it is known as table constraint, not for a particular column, for the entire table, and the value is given to the last of the declaration. They can be used only on individual column but also on the group of column. When the constraint is to be applied on a group of columns of a table, it is called a table constraint. If we applied on the column, it is known as column constraint. For the entire table, it is known as table constraints, and it usually appears at the end of the table definition. For example, create table stock I code care of 20 primary key auto increment in I name varchar of 30 not null dt purchase date rate decimal of 10,2 qty int unique I code comma I name. Here we use the table constraint as unique I code comma I name. I code and I name must be a unique value for the entire table. So it is known as the here I code and I name gives the table constraint as the table constraint. Here we create a stock table with the column names I code, I name, and date of purchase as dt purchase rate qty for the quantity, and uniquely I code and I name must be unique. Item code and item name. And next is how to view the structure of a table. For view a structure of a table, the describe command is used to display the structure definition of a table, or DESC. DESC or describe command is used to view the structure of a table, and the syntax is describe space table name or DESC space table name. These two are used to describe or view or display the structure of the table. Now if we want to create a student table, then we create a table with the column names. If we wanted to view the structure in the last section, here we use here we create a student table with the admission number, name, gender, date of birth, course, family, income of the student. Now if we wanted to view or display the structure of the student table, then we use the DESC student. What is the name here? Student. Then DESC space student semicolon or describe student semicolon. Then the output will be like this. That is, the fields are admission number, name, gender, date of birth, course, family, income with the data type. For admission number, we give the integer data type, varchar name, varchar of 20, gender, varchar of 1, date of birth with the data type, date, course with varchar of 15, and family income integer with 11. And the null values, we not null constraint given to admission number and name, not null, because name must be null with the constraint not null. So here no. And admission number with the primary key. So the primary key values are not null. And key is primary key is admission number. So in the row admission number key is primary, and default values for the we give only the default value for the gender as M, and the others are null, and extra auto increment value only to the admission number. It is the output of the student the description or the display of the structure of the student table. So today we are discussing about the SQL commands. SQL commands are, in this chapter we discussed about the DDL commands and DCL commands. DDL commands and DML commands. DDL commands to perform structure of the database, and DML modifications or the manipulations of the structure table, and then how to create a table with the syntax, and the rules for the naming tables or column, and the constraints, table constraints and column constraints, Column constraints are not null, auto increment, unique, primary key and default, and give a table constraint. And the last topic is how to view the structure of a table by using the describe command or DESC command. Hope all these topics are clear to you. Thank you, students.